Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum, A Renewal, Pax Vobiscum. Peace be unto you. Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're looking at Judges chapter 14. Enter Samson. So, there are 20 verses in this chapter. Beginning in verse 3, we see here that Samson sees a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. So that's her bloodline. In verse 3, he describes her as, to his parents, she is right in my eyes. So she is physically, as we say in our day and age, my type. She is eye candy. Versus in the Masoretic, it says here, it's a little anachronistic, dressed up like this, and then you got a Casio watch on. So anyway, you heard the beep. In any case, in the Masoretic, he describes her as, get her for me, for she pleases me well. Now, originally when I read this in the King James Version, I thought to myself, what is he talking about, Samson? Is he being pleasured by her? Is that past tense? Because they didn't even meet. He only sees her. So how is she pleasuring him? How is she pleasing him? But just using common sense, I believe what he means is that she's pleasing his eyes. Not that they were already physically intimate. And verse 7 confirms the Septuagint in this case. We'll look at that in a bit. Verse 4, big difference. It says that Yah sought to be revenged on the Philistines. So Israel and the Philistines have a long history of bad blood. And Yah sought to be revenged on them and the Philistines. Because if you attack Israel, you attack Yah automatically. Especially when they're in good terms with him. Particularly when they are in good terms with him and have a good relationship with him. And other times he uses foreign nations, foreign peoples to chastise them. So in this case, Yah sought revenge on them. And he was going to do it through Samson. Verses in the Masoretic, he sought an occasion against them. So he looked for an opportunity against them for some reason. And it says, and in the Septuagint, and at that time. So it's not related. The revenge described in this verse is not related to the Philistines lording over Israel or having dominion over Israel, as the Masoretic puts it. However, in the Masoretic, it does say for at that time. So there seems to be a relationship that Yah is seeking occasion against the Philistines because of their dominion over Israel. That's why. So it's kind of related. Whereas looking at the Septuagint, perhaps it is not related, more likely related to what they've done to Israel in the past. Okay, so in verse 5, it says, a lion roared at Samson in meeting him. So the lion, as a result, or as its reaction to meeting Samson, was a roar. That's its reaction. However, in the Masoretic, the lion is roaring against him like it is confrontational, like a challenge to Samson. And this is another big difference in this chapter. We have two already. And it is this, in verse 6, it talks about how, now I'm used to reading Samson ripping the lion in half like he would rip a kid or a young goat in two pieces. But I was kind of taken aback when I saw what the Septuagint described it as. Let me just minimize that. It says here that he crushed him, the lion, as he would have crushed a kid of the goats. So he crushed him, meaning either crushed his skull or crushed his body or both, versus, again, ripping him in two. In verse 7, it says, pleasing in the eyes. So, again, this confirms that she was pleasing to his eyes, eye candy, not that she pleased Samson well, because they haven't even made physical. They have not made physical contact yet. They did not have any physical relations, so we can't say that she pleased Samson in that way, only in a sensual way, by senses, not visual sense specifically. Okay, in verse 8, third big difference. There's a lot of big differences mounting up here. It says here regarding the lion and the honey that was found in the lion, it was actually in the mouth of the lion, not in its body. So I usually picture the carcass of the lion like being split open, and you could just imagine like the ribs, the open abdomen of the lion perhaps, and then just a beehive in the middle, kind of shoved into the carcass of the lion. However, no, it says honey was in the mouth of the lion, which is interesting, why there would be honey in its mouth. But that's the situation we read about. In verse 9, the continuous difference of mouth and carcass. Verse 10, the Septuagint gives us more information as to what is happening. Samson made a banquet for 7 days. Now, traditionally, what that means, what other banquet is there for 7 days besides a wedding in the Middle East? So most likely, I believe it was a wedding feast. And as opposed to in the Masoretic simply saying a feast, so perhaps a family dinner, which again, I don't think that's what it is. But verse 12 confirms that it was indeed 7 days. Also, in verse 11, verse 11 says, they, talking about his parents, Samson's parents, took 30 guests to this banquet, which again I believe is a wedding, and then 30 companions in the Masoretic. So wedding guests versus friends. The whole verse is very much a big difference in verse 15. So let's look at that. It came to pass on the fourth day, so fourth day versus the seventh day. It would have been too late if it was a seventh day, but this only confirms, this is confirmed by the previous verse talking about how they could not guess the answer for the riddle for 3 days. So what's after 3 days? Well, naturally the fourth day, or logically. And then it says, the people asked Samson's wife, deceive your husband, not entice him, deceive him, so trick him, and deceive him, trick him. And then it says, let him tell you the riddle, wife, versus let him declare to us, let him publicly announce it to us, which is very unlikely. I don't think he would do that. Whereas him telling the wife, yeah, that seems more likely. And then they ask, they accuse her, saying, did you, wife of Samson, invite us to do us violence? What is violence? What seems to be violence to them is taking from them 30 sheets or napkins and 30 changes of apparel is the consequence of them losing this bet. Verses in the Masoretic, not violence, but have you called us to take what we have? So it seems a little more logical. Maybe violence implies or includes theft, or not really theft, but taking from people what they don't want to part with, because it's not physically violent, it's maybe financially violent, or in terms of resources or material things. And then verse 17, we see that banquet continues to be the term used versus feast. And it says that she troubled him, his spouse did. His wife troubled Samson. And he told her the answer, versus she lay sore upon him, which could be an idiom meaning that she bugged him or troubled him. And then verse 18, we see a big difference in the timing of what part of the seventh day this is. It says before sunrise. So what is before sunrise? Well, that's the latter half of the day, because the day scripturally begins in the evening when it's dark, and then this is the second half of the day, sunrise. But if it's the seventh day before the sun went down, well, that would be too late, because this is talking, that would be saying they only have a few minutes before the deadline of 7 days. So it pretty much is ended by that point. So they did give him the right answer. So it seems they plowed with his heifer to find out the answer to that. It's funny how that turned out. Verse 19, there's an omission of the word powerfully. So the Spirit of Yah came upon Samson powerfully, didn't just come down upon him in a regular fashion, but was with him in a powerful way. And he went down to Ascalon, and he took their garments versus their spoil. And then the following part of the verse confirms, yes, it was raiment and garments. So these were clothing items. So Samson is a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek book, in my opinion. There's some dark humor in there, because he promised that he would give them these 30 napkins or 30 sheets, as well as 30 garments. And his way to get them, well, he didn't have them on hand. He actually went down to Ascalon, and funnily enough, the Spirit of Yah accompanied him there, as it usually does on his travels, and he destroyed 30 men, destroyed or killed them, and took their garments and their raiment, and he gave them to those individuals who won the riddle, who solved the riddle. So that's kind of comical and dark humor anyway. And it talks about how in verse 20, a significant difference in this verse, it says here, with whom he was on terms. So we see how Samson's wife was essentially taken from him and was given to one of his friends. That is a strange development, that one of his friends would simply swap wives, not even swap wives, simply take possession of his wife. So I'm not sure the circumstances. The only detail we're given here is that in the Septuagint, he was on terms of friendship. So did they terminate their friendship as a result of this taking his wife? I mean, essentially that's adultery. We break it down. Or was this a consensual decision? In the Masoretic, it describes whom he had used, Samson used, as his friend, or perhaps the companion used Samson as his friend. So in any case, the friend is not so much of a friend, in my opinion. Friends don't do that. A true friend. So was there mutual understanding between Samson and his friend that this is okay? You can take my wife? Did they agree upon this? Or did this friend do this act of adultery without his consent, just taking his wife? It says, let me just read it again. The wife of Samson was given to one of his friends. So was given by whom? Did Samson give his wife, or did the friend simply take his wife? So it's hard to say. Perhaps in the next chapter we'll find out. But in any case, this is all I have for you for this chapter of Judges 14. Thank you very much for your time. Look forward to the next video, Judges chapter 15, which we will most likely cover either Sunday or Monday. So the first day of the week or the second day of the week, because I do have to. I need to prepare a message coming up for Shabbat. So thank you very much for your time. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your support and your attention. Till next time, Shalom Aleichem, Salamu Alaikum, a renewal, Pax Vobiscum, and peace be unto you. Maranatha.